Do you know what all of these have in common? Yep, that's right. Today's video is all about pigments. We'll start with some beginner-friendly tips and then dive deeper into the results of the experiments and the tests that I carried out. I did all the testing so that you don't have to do it. So let me walk you through what I have discovered and show you which methods work best. Hello and welcome back to a new video. My name is Lucas, aka Chewy Painting, and today I would love to talk about pigments. And AK has sent me a new package of a weathering set, and it's been a great timing because I had a project in the back of my head where I wanted to test and experiment all the common questions that usually appear when talking about pigments. And the main question I usually get is how to fix them. And there is a product called Pigment Fixer, but it all comes with an up and downside. So today I would love to show you some experiments on these palettes that I have prepared. And I will go step by step through the single elements of these little experimental boards where I try different approaches, do little experiments, learn something myself, and show you what I have learned from my experiments. So let's jump into some painting and do some pigment testing and weathering. So this is the set AK has sent me. There are 10 bottles in there, one of them being the fixer and the other 9 are different type of pigments. So I've prepared these 2 different boards to test and experiment on them. One is going to be focused on how to fix pigments in all different kind of ways, and the other one's going to be more about the color differences. So let's start super basic with what actually is a pigment. You can think of a pigment like powder. In acrylic colors, these powders are combined with binder, making them more liquid. But this is the pure form, so they are like dust. Let me show you how they behave a little bit. So when I put them on the finger, you can see they're really dusty and stick to my finger once I touch it. Similar on the paper, if I press it into the paper or use some water, it will stick to the paper and the rest will fall off. So the pure pigment is dust, and once combined with any type of liquid, it changes its properties and sticks to the surface. In order to demonstrate this now, I will show you all type of different methods on how we can fix them onto the model. And in the first test, I want to show you how differently they behave compared to an underpainting. So now I'm preparing this first little square with a rough base coat so that you can see how this would look on a forest base. And the square above I will leave untouched. Pigments are really powerful in color, which is one of the reasons why I think they work really good on a dark undercoat. Now let's start with the first test, and for this I'm using a dry brush. So not a dry brush, but a brush that is actually dry. And you can see by just touching the pigments in the center, they stick to it, and that's exactly what I am now going to do on the model. So I'm pressing the pigments into the model, and this is the most common way how I use them, because I think that's the only way how you can achieve this super dusty look. Now I'm applying these purely onto the plate, and you can see how I'm actively pushing them and pressing them into the piece, which is the first type of how to fix pigments, with pressure. So this first approach, which is my most common used approach, has the drawback of that you have to handle and get rid of the excess pigments a little bit. I do this by shaking the model, using a hairdryer, and sometimes with a moist finger, tipping off some of the edges. But if you do it with a hairdryer, you remove like 90% of the excess pigments and they're safe to handle. And this very specific dusty look can only be achieved by using pure pigments. The second you use any type of different moisture onto them, they will change their properties. They will be fixed better to the model, but they will lose the look of the pure dustiness. So I've used a second pigment for some color variety, and this is the final result of the first 2. Left painted, right side untreated. Let's move to the next one where I'm actually using the fixer product. To make the comparisons as fair as possible, I'm sticking to the dark rust pigment now. And the first comparison that I was curious to test out was using the dry pigments and then on the top part with water and on the bottom part with fixer. So on both of these, I've applied them just like before with pressure onto the model. And now on the lower one, you can see how the fixer is pulling itself into the model. My main thoughts while doing this were the fixer is caring a lot about transitions. So since it can gradually transform from a non-pigment area into a pigment area, it's pulling the pigments equally and transitions this really well. And that's something that pigments really like. I was also curious to see if there's a difference in the order of application. So now I'm mixing fixer with pigment all together first and then applying it to the model. And you can see that the distribution is a little bit more difficult. So I've thinned it down even further to gradually build this up a little bit more. I think personally, while doing it, the left side felt a little bit more controlled and better in order to create the transition from non-pigment area to a strong pigment center. Now, the next method that I wanted to test is the same, but instead of fixer with water. So first I mixed pigments with water and applied them. And then on the other side, I added some water to the previously added pigments. It's very similar, I would say. Adding the pigments first gives you a little bit more control in the transitioning areas. In the direct comparison between fixer and water, it also becomes very clear that with water, the pigments become much thicker and more covering. So for the next experiment, I was also very curious to see what matte varnish and acrylic thinner do to pigments. So as a first test, I mixed pigments, matte varnish and some acrylic thinner to this type of consistency and added it to the model. Since this mix was rather thick, it's also quite covering, so I decided to add a little bit more thinner and then use this thinner mix for the transition areas to see how this thinner mix actually performs in thinning out the pigments as a soft transition. The next comparison is going to be really close, but here what I changed is that I applied the pigments first, and instead of acrylic thinner, I mixed the matte varnish with some water. So after applying this onto the model, you can also see again that the pigments kind of moisture up, but compared to the fixer, for example, it's not as good as softly transitioning out towards the edges. So you can actually see there's like a pond of pigments with a straight border. And what you rather want is transitioning softly out to 0% pigment. The last test that I did was with 70% alcohol, and also here I first applied the pigment and then tried this on the outsides to see how the transitioning effect was, and it was working quite well. And what I found also quite interesting as an observation is that you can see that the mix doesn't fully mix up but is still rather separate. And since I used multiple different colors on the first two squares, I decided for the last one I wanted to use just the pure rust pigment to see the finish in the comparison to all the others. So this is the first experimental board, and I've summarized all my little notes that I took while painting into this overview so that you can maybe take a screenshot and save it for later. When looking at the results in a closer manner, I think my main takeaways were that once you mix anything with a pigment, it gets more into a muddy look instead of a dusty look. So it doesn't matter which product you use and in which order, but you can never fully save this super dusty look. And the next thing is that water is having the biggest impact in making it more muddy. I'm not saying it's worse, but having the knowledge of how it behaves is great for us as painters, because then we can use this on purpose. Another learning when we're looking at the left side, the first two ones, I think the underpainting, the greenish hues are shining through, but they're not as impactful as you might think. So pigments are a speedway. You can roughly paint the base and then add some pigments. And I think it's really worth noticing to not overdo it. You can see in the center of this test board, there are some dark areas, and there I think the pigments truly work. So don't overdo it and leave some areas also without pigments. And I didn't make this board to pick a winner in the end, just to see how differently they behave in order to know when to use which approach. Something I've noticed that always looks really good, since they appear to be like dust, is that the pigments are in the recesses and the top parts are rather dark. So it's a little bit the opposite way, then usually we paint dark in the shadows and brighter on top. And with the pigments, I realize it often looks quite good if you have a dark foundation, put pigments on it, and then rub it off. I often use the moisture of my hands, since our hands have a little bit of a fat and moisture film on it, and it's usually enough to pull the pigments away on the top surfaces. I will show you in some footage now. So right here, I have moistened my fingers with a little bit of water, and I'm just rubbing over the model. So this is basically a reverse dry brush. I'm taking the pigments away from the most raised areas. And obviously sometimes the model doesn't allow it, so you can also do this with a brush and dark paint. This will ensure the look of dust being in the recesses and your model having a nice contrast between dark and bright. Now I just wanted to show these little hacks in between before we move over to the second board, where I'm mainly focusing on the exact colors of the pigments from the set. So compared to the first board, I would like to draw your attention how I'm using different colors, and that it's not great to use two different tones that are very close to each other, but rather instead use multiple different pigments to create color variety, and choosing them rather far away from each other so that the eye is having a good time detecting them clearly separate from each other. Now, the first square I have prepared by dry brushing a little bit of color onto it, and in order to demonstrate the difficulty of two pigments being very close to each other, I've chosen two on purpose that are really close to each other, and I'm using both of them equally on the top and on the lower part, with the difference that the lower part had some dry brushing to it. Now I'm blowing them off with the hairdryer, and you can see the model is rather well sealed. And now I'm going back in with some dark color, just like I showed you before, in order to sharpen some of the edges and sharpen the contrast a little bit again, because pigments tend to blend everything into each other. You can start playing a little bit of ping pong now by going back and forth. If you feel like the edges are too sharp, you can go back in with your pigments again. It's a creative process, so there's no straight line from A to B, and I wanted to show you this, that there's always room for going back and forth. Now this is the final result, and I think it's quite clear that there's no huge visual difference between the dry brushing and not, especially when the colors are this close to each other. In the next two comparisons, I would love to focus more on color variety and choosing the pigments that are clearly different from each other. So one being bright yellowish and one being more on the reddish side. I've used them dry first and then added some fixer, but also played around a little bit. So I'm using it on some of the edges with a lot of fixer, and then leaving some parts pure. And then also going with pure pigment into these wet surfaces to see how the fade out while the surface is already wet works. And this is very satisfying to watch, and reminded me a lot of when working with oils, that the color pulls itself into the surface. So another fresh learning is that you can actually use the fixer to moisten up a surface and then add pigment into the center for the perfect color transition. The next little one is more about the harmony of two tones together. I think these two particular pigments work really well together and make a very natural, good looking board. So I've applied these, trying to have a bright center and then use the darker pigment as a fade out, and also left some dark areas. And I strengthened this dark area effect by pulling in pigment into those areas, so that the transition of the pigment area into a no pigment area is very gradual. I think this looks really good and might be my favorite from all of the tests that I did. You can see in the top one there's some really bright spots, and later I will actually try to reactivate them to see if we can correct this. Now the next one is maybe the most important tip that I want you to take away from this video. In this test, we're talking about tufts. And for demonstration purposes, I have on purpose chosen some that don't match the surrounding to make this more obvious. So you can put the pigments first onto the tuft and then to the base, or what's even better, you can put the tufts onto the base, like in the top square, and then use some pigments in the surrounding area. This will naturally blend your tufts and your surrounding together, and as a direct comparison, in the lower half, I have added these tufts afterwards. And you can see how they just don't match the surrounding. I also tested this in combination with Pigment Fixer, which is a test that I cannot recommend, since the Pigment Fixer will make the pigments flow out of the tufts and more into the surrounding area of the base. So I would leave the Pigment Fixer away if I want to tint a tuft. But something that works really well is reactivating pigments. So here you can see how I'm going back in some of the squares to see what happens when you use Pigment Fixer once they're fully dried. So this works perfectly if you want to do some corrections. Now, those are the two tests that I've done on the two boards. And now let's have a look at my notes again to do a little summary of the learnings. So if you remember back on the first couple of ones, I think the underpainting or the dry brushing doesn't make too big of an impact. It's more important to have some areas with pigments and others without. Then in this overview, you can also see all the different type of pigments that I've used and their exact names. Color variety is super important, so a good mixture of clearly different pigments on a single piece is really nice. Since these boards were more meant as an experiment and testing board, here are also some bases that I did with more of a focus on the final result. And you can see that I'm following similar principles of a rather dark undercoat, mixing multiple different pigments together, blowing it off, and going back in with a darker color to restore some sharpness. So it's always the same, and you can get many fantastic results in no time. Also, as a little jump back to the first board and the topic of how to make the pigments settle into the ground, think of projects where it makes sense and take advantage of different properties. So I, for example, have used the pigments with matte, medium and water a lot for the Basilisk project and then dry brushed over it so that the pigments really look like they're in the recesses. So pigments are really good for a super quick, dusty weathering look, and you can see I'm constantly using them on all of my projects. And the little tests that I have shown you on the boards is something that I actually use on models too. So here as a practical example, I'm showing you on the first tire how the pigments behave with the fixer. So it runs much more into the recesses. And now on the second tire with water, it's a lot more sloppy and more dusty. So now with all these experiments, you maybe have like a toolkit so that you can actively choose on purpose when to use which look. Also, another nice addition, in the set there's also a black that I haven't used a lot on the bases, but I'm using black pigments all the time where an exhaust from a motor would be and all those type of things, just like on this tank or the gun barrel. This is all I wanted to show you today. I had a great time experimenting and also learned something myself. I hope you also learned something, and I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thanks for watching, and make sure to check out the links below. If you have any further questions, feel free to write a comment down below. I try to answer them all the time. And otherwise, happy experimenting and see you next time. Bye bye. Chewie out. Brrr.